This is KHQA Overtime with Chris Dewar, brought to you by Con Communications. This is KHQA. It's your news now.
Well, this is Saturday, March 31st, and you have indeed entered overtime, or as we affectionately refer to it around here, April Fool's Day Eve. Clearly, they've picked the right host for that job. Now, in contrast to the old adage, March is going out like a lion, at least as far as the local sports world is concerned. We have some major seismic shifts in the Missouri high school postseason playoff landscape to unveil. Plus, Leatherneck basketball gets a major bit of positive roster news going forward into next season. And we even had a perfect game today on the local softball diamond, but we start tonight with a top-tier baseball coupling in the city of Crimson, Jacksonville today. That's where our guy, PJ Moore, one of the great guys in Tri-State coaching, his Crimsons trying to jump out early on Q&D. They would do so behind Rudy Pate, a noted Raider killer. Off to the good start here with the infield single in the bottom of the first. Then Andrew Jackson, El Presidente, getting the job done, moving the runners up. And then it's just about fielders' choices for the Crimsons in the first inning. In this one, Blake Long puts the ball in play, scores Mr. Rudy Pate. Dustin Woodcock steps up and drives one to the right side of the infield. That's going to plate another run as well for the Crimsons as they jump out 2-0 at that point. Jordan Chappell would get out of that jam, actually pitched rather well in this game against the Crimson offense, kept it pretty much moribund for much of this game. Still, his team well opposed in this one. Also, Jordan Chappell's defense stepping up nicely in this one. First is Chris Dietrich making the play on the lead runner at third. And then check out Sam Douglas. Sensational seven-worthy on this one to steal a sure base hit from Zeke Rowe. Look at that catch by Sam Douglas going down into the sod to pull that one up. Beautiful stuff from him. Still to no avail in this ball game. I tell you what, Andrew Jackson was great on the hill today. Absolutely baffling with the change of speeds, and Quincy Notre Dame could never quite gauge him. Later, it's Mr. Woodcock again going to right field. This ball badly butchered out there as well, allows another run to score. That is the story of the ball game as the Jacksonville Crimsons take game one of a twin bill, 3-0 in that one. Game number two would go the other direction in exactly the same form. Adam Stepavsky, absolutely brilliant pitching performance to shut down the Crimsons as Q&D bounces back and wins that game by the final count of 3-0. It was a crazy day of baseball as well today over in Payson. Payson taking on West Hancock. Payson already leading in the middle innings. Tanner Stout singles in Johnny Mannion here to help augment that lead even further. Same inning. How about a single here from Scott Lentz? That would plate another run at this point. You know what? Payson making noise like they're going to pull off the upset in game one. Good day, though, for Austin Hardy in opposition. He did it all for West Hancock in this ball game, including the RBI ground out right here to start the Titans' comeback attempt, and it would be a successful one. In fact, with the game tied up at 11-all, this is Hardy delivering the biggest blow of the game, a two-run double to score a pair. Then Hardy comes on and closes this thing out on the hill as the Titans win game one of a twin bill, 15-11 on the road at Payson to make it all the better for Titan fans in this one. How about Kendall Summers and company in game number two, pulling off the shutout victory. Summers goes 3 for 4 at the plate and 3 RBIs as West Hancock gets the big win on the road. Elsewhere today, Beardstown sweeping a pair of no-doubters from Bushnell Prairie City Avon. 12-0 in the first game, 5-inning affair, but Brady Spears was one bad hop in the fifth and final inning away from a perfect game in this one. Still struck out 10 and looked really good. In the second game, Beardstown wins by the similar score of 12-0 as well. Also, Calhoun goes on the road, takes a pair of 3-1 games from Pittsfield, 3-1 in the first and 3-1 in the second, as you see right there. West Prairie today, the struggles continue for the Cyclones offense as they lose 2 at Anawan. Those scores were 9-5 and 8-5. Caleb Shoemaker, the ace for West Prairie, beaten in one of those games as well. Jacksonville rout today, a split on the road at always dangerous Piasaw Southwestern. First game goes 10-9 in favor of the Birds. Second game back in favor of rout. Your reigning KHQA Student Athlete of the Week, Colin Sheehan, with a pair of RBIs in the cause for the win for the Rockets there. Lewiston today, a split at Rushville Industry, 3-1 to the Indians the first game. Second game, though, Rushville Industry bounces back and wins in 9. 5-4 was your final there. there. Macomb with a split at Porta, winning the first one in a blowout, losing the second one in extra innings in actually 8 innings, not 9. 5-4 was your final there. Illini West up at the Galesburg Street Classic takes 5th place today behind a monster game from Braxton Squire, who had 6 ribbies on the day in a beating of North Boone. Also, Quincy High School gets off the schneid a little bit, beats Rova as Alex Million pitches a gem in that ball game for the Blue Devils. Over in Missouri, Hannibal a loser to Marshall despite the home run heroics of Justin Price. Also in the round robin for the Clarence Cannon Conference Tournament, Monroe City beats Palmyra, but Palmyra bounces back and beats Macon, this should say, by the final count of 5-3. Holden Hudson with a game-winning catch in that ball game. That means Macon and Palmyra split the Clarence Cannon Conference Tournament title by virtue of that victory. We've got some softball for you today. Huge matchup for Q&D against number 3 in the state last year, Bennett Academy. Kristen Gengenbacher, she does a nice bit of work right here with a runner on base, moves it up for Tori Kuhn, and all she does is mash. Not leaving the park this time, just straight back up the middle. Ms. Bailey Gengenbacher scores at that point, and my friends, it's on for Q&D. They are going to pull off the upset, and they're going to do it nicely right here. Cassidy right down the third base line, pulling up chalk, doing it just textbook style right there to score another run, makes it 4-2. Then Ari Rigg, who has been a fire of late, that is a sacrifice fly, scores another run. All Q&D all the time. A quality win for the 8-0 Lady Raiders as they beat Bennett Academy 5-2. Impressive win for Eric Orn's crew. And earlier in the day, speaking of impressive, how about Aubrey Wilson going the 5-inning perfect game route today over Cedarburg, Wisconsin? Tell you what, not a bad day for Miss Aubrey Wilson, who has pitched very, very well, but has kind of been overshadowed thus far this season by the big Raider bats. Meanwhile, today at the other part of the Payson cluster, how about Payson and Carrollton going at it? Carrollton coming in earlier in the day, beat by Bennett Academy for its first loss of the season. Cheyenne Bowman trying to make it 2 straight. She ends the first inning with a strikeout, then in the second, Bowman falling not behind a hitter, gets another strikeout right here, swinging, then with 2 outs, 2 strikes, she ends the inning with another sizzling strikeout right there. Payson trailing 1-0 when Skylar Brown gets down a bunt. Great heads-up base running by Miss Kristen Luce. She will score to tie the game at that point. And look at this, Miss Brown ends up at second base as well. Tell you what, Carl Asbury teaching those girls how to run the base pass, but Carrollton not to be denied after the loss today. The Lady Hawks are awfully good. They pushed across 3 unearned runs to take a 4-1 lead. They go on to win it today by the final count of 5-2 there. Also, earlier in the day, it was Payson Seymour beating Cedarburg 10-0 to kind of get back on the winning track. We'll take you to the Porta Slam now. Early in the day, Illini West taking on Springfield Calvary. Ashley Kerfoot striking out a batter here to get out of a bit of a jam. The jams, though, would continue for the Illini West pitcher in this one. How about a 4-run frame here in the 4th? This bases-clearing triple does much of the damage. Still, tell you what, Illini West tried to rally back in this ball game. It's Kerfoot setting the table, if you will, with a double to start things off. Then Shelby White going to step to the plate, do a little damage of her own with an RBI single, which cuts an 8-0 deficit to 8-1 at that point. Unfortunately, the Chargers get no closer. They lose this one today 8-1, go 1-2 on the day in the Porta Slam. More highlights coming as we show you. Let's go back to the highlights if we could. Quincy High taking on Flora in this game. Melissa Bracey starting things off with a fielder's choice RBI at that point. Then Lakin Freeze, who had a monster game in this one. She had 2 hits, a triple in this game, and an infield single here to score another run. All Quincy High in this ball game as Quincy High ends up getting the win over Flora, and Quincy High would win 3 games today as we take you to the scores. In the first game of the day against Hartsburg-Emden, Jonna Godshaw with her first varsity home run and 5 ribbies on the day in the win in the first inning. If that one, good for her. Also, the other score of the day that Quincy High won, a 15-0 drubbing of Porta. Mariah Hoke, big on the hill in that ball game. Liberty today, couple of wins as well. I was watching this Liberty Midwest Central game. Brooke Wellman, just as I walked across the diamond to go see Quincy High, hits a home run. Go figure that one. But congratulations to Liberty and Brooke Wellman on the win in Game 1 against Midwest Central. They also today lose to Rochester 2-1, but bounce back and beat Riverton 3-0. Mackenzie Bike in that game with a couple of ribbies to lead her team to victory. Also, Griggsville Perry 2 for 3 on the day with the wins over Rochester, as you see there, as well as over Warrensburg Latham. 7-5 was your final there. We're not done yet with softball. Crazy day in Jacksonville. Beardstown in Game 2 beats Jacksonville 16-3. That was part of the fun. The real fun came earlier in the first game of this frame. We will take you to the highlights. Tigers down 4-3 in this one. Top of the sixth, Olivia Pate appears to be making an out. That's not going to happen. Ball not only thrown away, but you're going to see the worst exhibition of sliding maybe you will ever see in this one. Claire Hardwick, get on down. That ain't pretty, but she is safe. It's not pretty either for at the other end of this, Olivia Pate, but she's all smiles at the other end. We're tied up. Tell you what, Megan Eisnagel would make sure we go to extra innings with a strikeout here. Ashlyn Myers in opposition, doing the same darn thing for Jacksonville as she shuts down a threat right here. We're going to extra frames, all tied up at 4. Jacksonville threatening with 2 outs in the 8th inning. Look at Kate Herter right here, out in right field. Catch of the year thus far. Full extension over her own back. Cleats over tea kettles in this one. My goodness, look at this catch. Sensational 7-worthy, not only for this week, but for the year. Great stuff from her. Preserves what would have been a triple, and the game to Jacksonville. Top of the 9th. We're still in extra innings. Beardstown trying to pick up from that defensive momentum that Kate Herter would provide. Jill Harris going to start off the frame on the right foot in this one with a long double. Thought initially this ball might be leaving the yard. It got down quickly, though. That sets the table again for Megan Eisnagel, who's going to move up Jill Harris all the way to 3rd. And then the aforementioned Kate Herter going to do her part. She gave her team a 6-4 lead in the top of the 9th. Still, Jacksonville rallies back, ties it yet again. I told you it was a crazy day. 10th inning, 4 unanswered runs from Beardstown gets the Tigers the sweep. As I tell you what, big win for Beardstown as they end up winning that game by the final count of 10-6. More softball to pass along to you now. Anawan today takes 2 from West Prairie, 13-2 in the first game, and despite a great pitching effort from Taylor Harper, she was criminally unsupported offensively. 2-0 your final in the second game as well, and a spring score today, as well as Paris falls to Vanfar 8-6 was your final there. And we're just getting warmed up, by the way. We'll come back, we'll bring you up to speed on all the day's college action and tell you how redistricting has changed the landscape of Missouri high school football and basketball for next year.
You're watching KHQA Overtime with Chris Dewar, brought to you by Con Communications.
And welcome back to Overtime, everybody, where we do chicken right. Oh, wait, I think that's the wrong slogan. Well, you can call it bad news for every other backcourt player in the Summit League, and maybe the most encouraging tidbit we've heard out of Western Illinois Leatherneck basketball in a decade. Summit League Defensive Player of the Year, Ceola Clark, announced via his Twitter account this weekend that the NCAA has granted him a medical hardship and a 6th year of eligibility next year in Macomb, meaning the Leathernecks are not only a viable Summit League championship threat, they may well be the dark horse favorites coming into next year and are well positioned for a run at the first ever NCAA tournament berth in program history. Clark was a second-team All-League pick and gives the next 4 full-time starters from this year's squad coming back, not to mention the part-time return of Remy Roberts-Burnett. Good stuff for Coach Molinari and company up in Macomb. Some baseball scores today. Western Illinois felled at home by Bradley, 15-9. Also, huge day for El Diablo and Hannibal LaGrange as Clint Hamilton, the pride of Pittsfield, goes 2 for 3 with a homer in the win over Williams Baptist in game number 1. He bounces back with another ribby in game number 2 as the Trojans get the sweep on the road. Also, we've got Culver Stockton for you being felled by Evangel in straight games, 10-3 and 6-5. Quincy University goes to Springfield, has to settle for a split today, losing to Drury 5-4 in the first game. The second game, the Hawks bounce back and win 9-6. Illinois College today taking on Monmouth with a split as well. 4-0 in the first game in favor of the Blue Boys. The second game goes in favor of the homestanders, 9-8. John Wood today looking for season wins in a row, number 20 and 21. Joe Burge on the hill for John Wood. Good action on this pitch as he makes the hitter look absolutely foolish for the K. Later, it's Lenrick Pinto doing work in this one with the bases loaded and a chance to tie the lead. A blast left field. The sac fly scores Corey Wisdom at that point. However, John Wood behind and not able to pull out of a jam. So after winning 1 and extending the win streak to 20, they lose this game to Lincoln and see the streak stopped by the final count of 5-3. Earlier in the day, Cody King leads the team to victory as John Wood gets that 20th win, 5-1. The Blazers now 20-3 on the season. We've got softball for you as well. First game of a doubleheader goes in favor of William Jewell in 9 innings as William Jewell wins 4-0. Highlights of the second game, much more encouraging for Miss Francis, facing a 2-1 deficit in the fourth. She gets the strikeout and extricates herself from a bit of a jam. She will also help herself immensely at the plate, going deep. She has that kind of power to tie the game up at 2 apiece with that bomb to left field. Laura Molinar going to help out the cause as well. Singling to left, that means 2 runners are in position for Ashley Rossetti, going to run right down the third base line. Plates a run there, scoring Kelsey Lee to make it 3-2. Then Emma Tops batting. That pass ball would score Molinar. Then it's going to be Miss Tops doing work with the aluminum as she's going to score the pride of Camp Point Central, Taylor Drawley. All Lady Hawks in the second game as they end up getting the split today, winning that second one by the final of 5-2. Ross will have more Hawks action for you coming up on Sunday. Also today, Culver Stockton beaten twice by Baker today at home. 2-1 in the first game, 2-0 in the second. Better news for Illinois College and Elise Speckhart, the Payson product. She had a couple of RBIs in the win in game number 1 at Grinnell, and in game number 2, she got the win in relief. So good stuff from the Payson product there. We've got Quincy University volleyball as well, trying to avenge last night's loss to IPFW. We're about to foster the people as Coach Hadley Foster's team lost sets 1 and 2 in this one. The third set, Stephen Battaglia comes up with the spike to get Quincy University rolling just a bit. A little bit later, Joe Sokol heats up with the nice big block on the right side right here. However, for all of their efforts tonight, the Hawks could never muster any real momentum or traction in this match with the Mastodons. They end up losing in straight games. Tough weekend for the Volley Hawks as they lose this one 3-0 was your final. Meanwhile tonight, as spring football campaigns start to mop up around the tri-states, Culver Stockton ended theirs today with the annual blue and white game. The Wildcat program also took a moment to remember the late Max Zumwalt, a Pittsfield native and Wildcat alum who was killed in an automobile accident back in January of 2011. The school today dedicated a bench in Max's honor and then went on to play some pretty darn good football, some encouraging football today, led by the freshman running back Desmond Phillips. Remember, this name had a monster scrimmage today with 169 yards and on 21 attempts, including the 18-yard game here. Great work by the defense all day long as well. The defensive line hassling and harassing Kyle Elmore here as Brandon Banks puts a hand up to knock that pass down. Later, Elmore trying to fire again, but Marcus Moss gets the deflection as well. Good to see the activity up front from the front 7, front 8 for Culver Stockton in this one. The secondary good as well with 3 interceptions on the day, although Culver Stockton's offense, which was represented by the blue, was your winner in this today. They end up winning by the final modified score. These weren't touchdowns or points like that. Modified score of 72-51. Well, I've never been one to hide my disdain for the district playoff system in Missouri high school football, which in its elegant, only the last 3 weeks of the season count for anything, simplicity/stupidity, negated the meaning of the entire rest of the regular season. Now, the good folks in Columbia at Misha have come up with a solution to this. Starting this fall, districts will now be 8-team affairs rather than your 3-team affair, which we've done for the last couple of years. And after your team plays its first 8 games, it will then be seeded by record for the district playoffs, with each team in the district going 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7, etc., until the bracket produces a true champion 3 games later. This new system makes today's unveiling of the new football districts all the more important. The teams most affected by today's goings-on, well, those would be Centralia, Macon, and Bowling Green. After dominating Class 2 the last 2 years in our area, Macon and Centralia are jumping up to Class 3 football this season, where they will join a district bracket, that now includes Boonville, California, Chillicothe, MMA, Fulton, and Southern Boone. Meanwhile, in Class 4, Hannibal will rejoin with some of the holdovers from the NCMC, including Helias, St. Dominic, and Warrenton to make up that district. Hannibal Helias expected to be the class of that district, as they have been for the last couple of years. As I mentioned, Bowling Green moving down from 3 to Class 2, and that is huge for the Bobcats, although their district is not a picnic, with the lion's share of Clarence Cannon Conference schools, Palmyra, Monroe City, Mark Twain, Clark County and Highland all joining that grouping, and all of our Class 1 schools now all in one district. By the way, a note for basketball fans as well that you do not see there of interest. South Shelby and Ellsbury are moving down to Class 2. You might remember that Ellsbury made the last 2 Elite Eights, made a Final Four 2 years ago. Moving from in Class 3, moving down to Class 2 is a huge boon for Ryan Parker and company. We've got some basketball news as well for you. Congratulations to the big fella, Christian Bubba Williams of Hannibal, who announced via Twitter tonight that he has verbally committed to Mo Valley, where he will continue his career. First team All-NC-MC pick, nearly averaged a double-double this season. Christian Williams, moving on to Mo Valley, had lots of choices locally, all the small colleges after him. He has chosen to continue his career at Mo Valley, and he is a darn good one. Some soccer scores to pass along today. Quincy High gets 7 goals from 7 different girls. Gotta like the balance in beating Rock Island 7-0. Up next for the Blue Devils, a showdown coming up next week with Q&D. Hannibal improves to 3-2 on the season with a win over Marshall. Catherine Allen with the golden goal there. Keokuk today opens its season going 1-1, a tie with Davenport West, a loss to North Scott, and a big win over Burlington, which saw goals from A.J. Swan and Zach Church. And when we come back, we'll have more overtime, including our Con Connection of the Week.
You're watching KHQA Overtime with Chris Dewar, brought to you by Con Communications.
Well, it is that time of week yet again, kids. Every week in this spot, we salute an outstanding sports coupling as your Con Communications Connection nominee of the week. And at the end of the month, you simply need to go to connecttrisdays.com and vote for your favorite of our 4 highlight producers. Now, I lied to you last week. I said the voting was to start this week. We actually had 5 different Saturdays this week, so it will starting tomorrow. Your chance to win a prize package, and simply if you vote for your favorite candidate, you got a chance to win a nice cash card and a nice grouping of things from our friends at Con Communications. Good prize package, so be sure to vote. You have 4 previous nominees. Here is our 5th, and it is a dandy. Well, this would be a couple of weeks ago. So you've already seen this, my friends. Apparently our Kate Harder that you saw earlier, the outstanding Beardstown right fielder, didn't reload. You're looking back at Garrett Serban from week 1. You know it's late on Saturday. What the heck? These things. Oh, here we go. Nicely done, Jeremy. Kate Harder. We had other things to consider this week, and then this just kind of blew us away. The connection of Kate and softball. Look at her out there in right field. That, my friends, is just dandy stuff. So that is one of your 5 nominees for this week. Again, as you saw earlier, Garrett Serban is in the mix for his outstanding dribble and pass. Jessica Grimes with a game-winning home run for Quincy University softball. Aaron Edwards with his from the seat of his pants steal and assist in the WBBA All-Star Game, and Tori Kuhn from Quincy Notre Dame with the biggest home run we've seen yet this season and maybe in a long time in softball. All of those are online. You can peruse them, and again, starting tomorrow, you can vote for your favorite. By the way, also want to pass along a congratulations to our latest round winner in Hoops Madness. He is Josh Vandiver of Hannibal, who ended up winning round 4 with 64 points, and he is going to win a prize package, I should say, from Refreshment Services Pepsi. And we'll have more overtime coming up after this.
You're watching KHQA Overtime with Chris Dewar, brought to you by Con Communications.
Well, the biggest Big Monday of all comes right here on KHQA, as it will be Kentucky and Kansas for the national championship. So you can see the bad guys take on the Wildcats coming up right here on KHQA on Monday, and we will hope that Anthony Davis, the Peter Gallagher of NCAA basketball and your Wooden Award winner, can dispatch with the Jayhawks. This is just painful what's taking place over here. The bad guys always win. So see it right here. Ross has got some great stuff for you, including a huge Monday coming up as well with Sensational 7. Lots of good stuff planned this week. Your Student Athlete of the Week is Pittsfield's Seth Petty. All of it on a very busy week, and we'll see you right back here for overtime coming up next Saturday.